What's the haps? I'm John, aka Meroka, and welcome to Spiel. We are in Ruby Bishopgate this week, which is poisonous, as you can see by the swirling green fog around us. As you may be able to tell from the distinctive deconstruction zone music, we're in a deconstruction zone, so gremlins and a few little constructs here and there, so that's that. We have actually got a little bit of Spiral Knights news, yeah, for you this week. Nothing terribly exciting or significant, really, in the grand scheme of things, but hey, it's stuff. So it's prize boxes, it's prize box time. It is around the peak of midsummer and whatnot, the longest day of the year and all that. It is a solstice, that must mean there is a solstice prize box, and indeed there is. Well, that was silly. I really should have taken out the healer long before I did all those guys, I think. I approached this entirely wrong. My approach to this level has been poor at best. That's one set of bullets gone. So yeah, Solstice prize boxes are back. They're kind of the same things you get at all the solstices. It's not really... They do this twice a year, so it's not like it's anything crazy, exotic and new this time. It's things you've seen before. There's the crowns of summer and winter and whatnot. I will... Now that I've finished fighting things, I can show you them. Probably. Maybe? No? That's a battle pack? There we go, that's a solstice thing. Yeah, you know, you got the medallions, you got the wings, you got the crowns. They look pretty cool, but they're here twice a year. Every year. In fact, they'll be gone pretty soon, actually. By the time this video goes up, it will be... Actually, it might be a little too late. You may not even be able to get them by the time this video goes up. I'm a bit slow on the Spiral Knights news at the minute, just because I really have not been paying too much attention to the game lately. I was pretty busy. I was out and about and doing other things last week, which is why I recorded the video in advance, and a lot of Spiral Knights-y type things just kind of bypassed me. And as I say, I think the slowly but steadily dwindling interest in the game means nobody ever tells me when anything happens. Once upon a time, anything happens in the game, everyone's like, oh my god, check out the things in Spiral Knights. Now, nope. Wait, how do I get to... How do I get to this now? I have a vial. I could just use the vial. That would do it. Boop. There we go. That works. I was trying to figure out if there was an angle where I could use my pet, but I think that seemed like that was too far. Vials to the rescue, huh? In addition, there are also monster pockets available for sale in Haven. You know, the accessory that you put on the front of your armor, and you get to carry around a little pet. You can get a little chrome whelp thingy, whatever, the lizardy things. You can get yourself a mew cat. You can get yourself a gun puppy, or the Hoptimer, is it? I think, yeah, the weird rabbity devilite thing that costs a little bit more than all the other monster pockets for some reason. And just because it was I think it was because it was the new and shiny one last time around. It was like, oh, it's expensive because it's the new one, but it's still expensive now, even though it's not the new one anymore. I don't know. So it's there's really actually nothing new, but it's stuff that wasn't in the game a week ago. So I guess it's new in that kind of regard, to a certain extent, I suppose. It's not a big deal. So yes, that's the lack of news this week. So let's do some questions. Actually, no. Before we get on to questions, I got some other things I wanted to mention. There is things that precede the questions. Passed a couple of milestones recently on the channel, and actually I had passed one of them last week, and I meant to mention it, and I totally forgot to mention it. And so I'm going to mention it this week, and we shall celebrate a little bit. I have passed 2,000 subscribers on the channel, so thank you to everybody who has subscribed to my channel to date, and anybody who is currently contemplating subscribing to my channel as well. You can click the little button below and that will make that happen, and I will be a very happy man, and you will get content from me on a daily basis. But to everyone else who is, well, watching this video, we shall have a little bit of a celebration. If you've been with me for any of my previous milestones, you'll know the way I tend to do these things is by giving stuff away. And my attitude towards giveaways is kind of more of a hands-off, here's a thing, first come, first serve kind of deal, because I feel like people who are loyal viewers should get that stuff, and not just, I don't know, you get a lot of channels that have giveaways, they're just like, here, big public shouting about, here, I'm having a giveaway, subscribe to my channel and you can get some stuff. But that's a good way to get people who aren't interested in your content to subscribe, and who are going to unsubscribe the moment the moment the contest is over. So I don't like that kind of giveaway. I really don't. So I would rather reward the people who are loyal to me than attracting freeloaders. That's just the way I would like to run my channel. So I will give things away. Normally, like I say, I would just normally put a key on the screen, a Steam key for you to redeem at your leisure. And yeah, first come, first served. I'm not going to do that this time. I want to do other things. I want to make it a little bit more interactive. I'm certainly still not going to make a big song and dance and shout about it, because again, that's making a big song and dance and shouting about it is just #1 way to attract freeloaders, and I don't want those people. So I'm still going to keep this to the people who watch my content on the regular, which would be you guys who are watching this now. So I'm going to run a little contest. I'm actually going to give away 2 things, because there was another milestone I spotted like just yesterday that I have also passed, I guess in the last couple of days or so, is that I have also passed 250,000 views across all of my videos, which is a crazy milestone. All of the things I have ever made have been watched 250,000 times now. So for 2 milestones, I'm going to be doing 2 giveaways. So, oh, they're going to name their sprite after me. Oh, that's adorable. Thank you. Is that a good name for a sprite? I don't know, but I appreciate the sentiment. Okay. I don't normally read out the comments I get, but that one caught my eye. That's cool. Okay, yeah, where was I? Contest, giveaway, things. I'm going to give away a copy of the Game of the Year 2013. Should be To the Moon. My Game of the Year. The only Game of the Year that counts, as far as I'm concerned. The only recommendation from a game critic that carries any weight whatsoever will be To Me and To the Moon. So I'm going to be giving away a copy of To the Moon to celebrate 2,000 subscribers to anybody who can, not to anybody, but to my favourite question that somebody leaves for Spiral Spiel next week. I'm always trying to encourage you guys to ask me more things. I think I've done this before, haven't I? I'm always trying to encourage you guys to ask me more things, more interesting things, particularly as well, to answer and talk about, and topics to explore on Spiral Spiel. So in order to encourage you to do that, if you leave the best... well, I'll do the top 2. The way this is going to work is going to be top 2. The top 2 people are going to get games. One of them is going to be To the Moon. And the other one is going to be my Game of the Year 2014, which is Always Sometimes Monsters. So those 2 games are up for grabs to the 2 people who leave the best questions for next week. And here's a clue. Best question does not involve Spiral Knights in any way, shape or form. If you've been following the last 30 episodes of this season of Spiral Spiel, you'll know I'm looking for interesting, maybe a little bit intellectual, something I can dig into and talk about for a while, something that's a fairly interesting topic to explore, possibly a bit scientific. I mean, obviously I'm big into science, that's the sort of thing I quite like digging my teeth into, you know. That is my jam, so that works well. You know what I like, probably. So if you ask me some trivial question about Spiral Knights, that won't win. If you ask me some really deep, interesting thing about particle physics, that's probably more the sort of avenue you want to go down, but I don't want to narrow it down to like, oh, only particle physics is going to win. That's just an example of something that would be good. What are we doing here? We are doing Blight Boulevard, which is Undead's. So let's do this. So yeah, there's 2 games up for grabs there. Top 2 questions that are submitted to me this week will win copies of those 2 things. No, I'll in order to try and keep some semblance of order about this, yeah, number 1 is going to be To the Moon, number 2 is going to be Always Sometimes Monsters. My top two things. Oh, this was not a... Oh, I guess there's Undead in here, and I put my Undead loadout on, but then there are a lot of jellies as well, and I really should have brought Acheron, I guess. Voltage Acheron would have been a better combination. Whoopsie. Never mind. I'm sure I will survive. Anyway, that does take us into this week's questions, for that is the nature of the show. You ask me questions and submit topics and things to me, and I will answer them. If you're not familiar with Spiral Spiel, I don't know how you managed to watch 9 minutes of this already, but okay, hello, welcome to Spiral Spiel. You ask me things and submit topics, and I talk about them. That's the way things roll around here. And one of the questions was from Daniel Coppage, who says, what is the helm in your Undead loadout? Which is the one I am just put on and I'm wearing, I presume is the one you're talking about. This would be the Heavenly Iron Helm, which is... it's one of the ones you can only get from the Sanctuary after doing a Shadow Lair. It's Shadow Resistant, which is why it makes it into my Undead and Fiend sets. It's got Fiend Damage bonus, which is also why it makes it into my Fiend set. And the one thing I invariably forget to make a note of when I'm wearing it is that it does have a weakness to shock damage. So every time I go up against like shock zombies or something, I always tend to wear this and then kind of regret it. So yeah, that's a thing. So bear that one in mind. There are other undead options are available that don't make you thoroughly weak to shock. I mean, heck, I have a Snarlax helm as well, which is probably generally speaking, I would imagine, a better option for a lot of stuff. Just insofar it just doesn't have the weaknesses. So I should probably wear that more often. I should probably like swap in my undead set and my paladin set, as it call it. I should probably swap those out, but meh, whatever. I like this. I got this mostly for the aesthetics, to be honest. Okay, I can't get behind this guy. I got this because it was cool. Look, it's a metal hat with a metal halo bolted to it. It looks pretty cool. I like that style. So that was mostly why I got it. And I am aware I could wear it as a costume and wear the Snarlax with it, and that is what I should do. I may never get around to doing that, even though it would be trivial. I don't know. Well, so you know how I play Spiral Knights now, which is to say, casually and not well. That's how that goes. Anyway, that is a great example of the kind of question I probably wouldn't pick as being a winner in my little contest this week, because that was about Spiral Knights, and I have talked about Spiral Knights for 130 episodes. Well, actually, I haven't. I've ignored it for quite a lot of those in the last 30, but I talked about it for about 100 episodes, so no more, please. I have more to talk about this week. Canothis says, what are your preparations for a nuclear holocaust? That is not something I have ever given a great deal of consideration to. The whole nuclear war thing is not a thing people tend to, not in my experience, people tend to consider to any great extent. Hanging around with a geek crowd, I will say I know a lot more people who spend a lot of time thinking about zombie apocalypses more so than anything else. That's a topic that certainly gets explored. And once upon a time I definitely came up with more than a few... But when I was a student at university, I know more than a bit of time was spent dedicated to planning for the inevitable zombie apocalypse, as it was. I have not done that in recent years. If the zombie apocalypse were to fall upon us now, I probably would not terribly survive very well. I'm not well armed or well equipped or, just generally very fit at all as a person, so my odds of survival are probably not terribly high. In the nuclear scenario, likewise, yeah, I've not really given enough thought to that, so sort of cower in a bunker until supplies run out and die. I don't even know where you'd find a bunker. Who has a nuclear bunker? Okay, I get the vague impression that quite a lot of overzealous gun-toting American-type characters prepare for that kind of thing, but I don't know anybody in the UK that does that, so that's not really a consideration. So, yeah. Can't say that's anything I can answer in any great depth, to be honest. Additionally to that, another question from Canothis. What are your thoughts on a Spiral Knights animated series, not done in 3D animation, but in a sort of anime-ish dramatic style series based on events that take place in Spiral Knights, but have its own twist on the story? I presume you're... I don't know, I guess are you sort of thinking of stuff like Solotron, Sir Jinxable's stuff? When you say like the 3D animation, you're kind of thinking about the Spiral Spy style of animation that a number of people do, certainly, I would say, pioneered by Sir Jinxable. Because, honestly, I don't deny there's plenty of people who do seem to appreciate that kind of thing. I keep walking through that. I'm blind to this patch of grass. I keep walking through it every damn time. I don't deny there are people that certainly seem to appreciate that kind of thing. It reminds me way too heavily of the old Garry's Mod style of animation. I never liked that either, as far as an animation style goes. So, I can't necessarily say I care for the 3D stuff anyway. I imagine if, I don't know, Three Rings were to put out like a Spiral Knights movie maker, like the Source filmmaker, you could come up with some interesting stuff, because God knows, once you actually have the tools to work with to make proper 3D animation works great. I mean, look at TF2 and End of the Line compared to literally anything that was made in Garry's Mod. And it's like, yeah, End of the Line, that's bang on, that's great, that's an entertaining piece of animation. Anything that comes out of Garry's Mod, it looks awful. And it's the Spiral Spy. It's the same kind of deal of you're trying to brute force a system that's not designed for animation into making animation. And congratulations, what you've done is actually, to be fair, a pretty decent accomplishment, but just by virtue of the fact that you're using a tool that was not in any way, shape or form intended for animation, it just looks kind of subpar to anything that would be created in a tool that does require an actual that it is designed for animation, like Source Filmmaker. So there's something to look into. Get Spiral Knight's assets into Source Filmmaker or something. Yeah, that would work. In terms of doing it in a sort of anime style, yeah, I'd watch that. Yeah, I would watch it. I would watch Spiral Knight's anime. As in, yeah, you know, if someone actually, hand drew all the stuff and did an actual animation, that would be cool. I could watch that. I just think the sort of that sort of what the heck am I looking for? Why do I always bring that menu up? I always bring that menu up. I want gate map. What am I doing? Beasts. Okay, Beasts requires a different loadout. Beasts requires a Beast Slayer loadout. This is the problem with status-themed rooms. I kind of end up having to change gear frequently. Either that, or I forget to change gear frequently, and consequently end up with the wrong gear. One of the two. So if there's one consistent enemy type, I can usually gear for it. So, yeah. Alright, so yes, I would totally watch a Spiral Knight's anime style thing. That'd be cool. I'm alright with that. So yeah, I mean no disrespect to Sir Jinxable and whatnot. Like I say, what he and his peers in the field of Spiral Spy animation have accomplished is no doubt impressive. Yeah, absolutely. I have not got the patience for that kind of thing. But I just feel like if you were to work in something that was designed for animation, the results you could come up with would be just like be many-fold better in terms of the finished product. It's just, that's kind of an it feels like I'm being slightly harsh, but it's also kind of just an objective observation, I feel. I feel like I'm just saying, how it is. Sorry. Alivi says, how long do you think it will be until scientists solve the dihydrogen monoxide problem? Well, I hate to break it to you, but it could be a very long time. I don't think it's a problem that's ever going to be solved. Quite frankly, I don't know how many people are aware of this, but, scientists are directly involved in the processes that produce the water supply, and as a consequence, are directly involved in the process of the water supply having dihydrogen monoxide in it. They're kind of responsible in a lot of ways. So, I don't think they're working on removing it from the water supply, to be honest. I don't think anyone's doing that. And it may be a problem that never gets answered. This could be the great problem of our times. How to remove dihydrogen monoxide. I don't know. I don't think anything's happening. It's certainly it's pretty serious stuff. Is dihydrogen monoxide. As I say, there's plenty of other research and topics and things out there on it. So there are people better versed on things than I. Go look those up. I've just heard all the nasty things that can happen to it. Happen to you if you consume it. If you're exposed to far too much dihydrogen monoxide, it can be a terrible thing indeed. Okay, that actually does bring us to the end of all the questions I've done, so I have saved a little bit of a topic-y thing up that I wanted to ramble on about, which I found, something I found a couple of weeks ago I thought was interesting. It was like, I feel like this is worth talking about. Someone on Reddit linked to it in a thread about God knows what, I can't even for the life of me remember, but ultimately the topic I kind of wanted to get into was, well, it's basic income is what it is. If we are not familiar with the concept of basic income, it's a system that I personally like the sound of because in the position I'm in, I feel like it's a bit self-centered because it's the sort of thing I would certainly benefit from greatly in my current position in life, which is, say, the idea that we as a species are kind of at a position where our governments could afford to give a basic income to everyone. Basically, every man, child, woman, criminal, every single person living in country X, pick a country, whatever the heck you want to wherever you are, wherever you may be, whatever we're referring to, it doesn't really matter to any great extent. The government could afford to pay them, basically, living expenses, you know, they could pay to keep a roof over everyone's house, over everyone's head, and money for food, and some, you know, basic standard of entertainment, so that it's not a completely poverty-stricken existence. And that's not an unreasonable thing to ask for. There are plenty of people who've, you know, sort of looked into, you know, the viability of this, and the figures, and sustainability, and how this works, and, you know, there's a lot of research out there to suggest that's totally doable. I feel like there's a lot of people out there looking at America, definitely, they're like, ooh, that's a socialist thing, damn, commies just want to come here and leech off everybody else's hard work, and yeah, it's one of those things that the way our society's been set up means a lot of people would look at it negatively, and they're kind of, oh, I have to work hard and they get to sit on their asses all day jerking off and getting paid for it, and I don't know, it's one of those things that the concept of it is like, it's not unreasonable to ask for. I mean, I suppose one of the common arguments against it is that who would do the crap jobs, the jobs that nobody wants to do. Nobody really wants to flip burgers for a living. Nobody wants to clean toilets. These are jobs that kinda are gonna want to get done by somebody somewhere, regardless of whether anybody wants to do them. These jobs kind of need to exist. Well, one could maybe argue burger flipping not so much, but certainly stuff like cleaning and litter picking and whatnot. You know, the general sort of maintenance of the world around us. Those kind of things kind of need to get done one way or another, and somebody's got to do it. But, you know, under a kind of a basic income system, it's like, well, why don't you just make those jobs pay better than the basic, you know, to give people an incentive to do it? If it's like, oh, if everybody's got an income, there's no incentive to do the crap jobs. Well, if the incentive is that the crap jobs pay better, then that's okay. If they paid a living wage, I mean, right now, we've kind of got this awful system in a lot of places where all the crap jobs, the worst jobs, the people who work the hardest get paid like the least. The crap jobs generally involve working pretty hard compared to some cushy office jobs. And they get paid, in a lot of instances, less than living wage. They get paid poverty wages. That's to say nothing of stuff like service jobs in the US, where they literally, law says, yeah, you can pay them $2 an hour or whatever it is. I know they're supposed to make it up in tips, and I guess in a lot of instances they kind of do, but I don't like that system, no. I know in some cases, like in London, they have implemented the London living wage, which is supposed to encourage employers to pay a certain amount that covers living expenses in London, but I don't know that everywhere does that. It's certainly one of those things that... it's not one of those things that's not universally adopted, so you still got people in London working crap jobs for not a lot of money. So Chittering Burrows is undead, isn't it? So I'm just going to go back to my paladin, I think. Actually, do I want my paladin? I want... What do I want? Yeah, I'll take that, I guess. That sounds right to me, I think. So, what brings this up is I read a story recently, which was kind of a little bit light science fiction, near future kind of science fiction stuff, which kind of exploring quite practically the technologies and advancements in the near future and the consequences of it upon our society. The story is called Mana, is by a man called Marshall Brain. It is freely available on the internet. It's fairly obvious just at a glance at his website. He's very much an advocate for basic income, and the idea is, you know, is really not... So, certainly not with the advancement of technology, doesn't sound unsustainable. At the minute, I think there's still kinks to be worked out. It's a system that is like, it's a nice pipe dream, but there's a lot of work to go into it. But if you sort of take the current trends in technology and the paths of society and where we're developing, you know, it doesn't seem like it's something entirely unreasonable to occur. You know, give it 20, 30 years or so. We could be at a point in our society where people don't really need to work because, well, the trend of things is that we're moving towards considerable more automation. The idea is that, you know, give it 10, 20, 30 years, we will be building robots that can do crap jobs. Heck, we are already doing that. I think a lot of people would consider a great deal of issues with employment and unemployment and whatever in society. I mean, are related to the fact that a lot of automation is making a lot of jobs entirely superfluous in society, and that's only going to continue. The sort of the basic work that was just, as I say, kind of your basic human grunt work that get fairly mindless, hard work but fairly mindless and low paying. People are going to develop systems that can automatically do those anyway, and as time goes on, more and more of that will become automated, and we'll end up with a ever-increasing problem of there's a lot of jobs that are being done by machines quickly, cheaply, efficiently, affordably, generally well, and the people that have to do all those jobs, or previously had to do all those jobs, all of a sudden don't have to do those jobs. And they're just going to get put out of work, and so they have to find other jobs in other fields, which they're not qualified. And you can kind of see how that sort of process would spiral. I mean, a great example, just off the top of my head, something that could very, very comfortably happen within the next decade or so, is we're already at a point where we have some reasonably practical self-driving cars coming out in the last few years or so. It's some very reasonable technology going on in that field. Well, taxi drivers and things are already complaining about services like Uber, but, well, heck, if all the transportation systems in a nation were to become automated, and we had automated systems for public transport and for personal transport, ferrying people around without any need for drivers, well, okay, so what about the bus drivers? What about the taxi drivers? What about anybody who has to drive anything for a living? All of a sudden, their jobs are gone, and that is just one example that's reasonably practical, like in the very near future. So you can see how things are going to could quite comfortably continue down that path. And we end up with a position where there's actually quite a lot of people in menial jobs don't have any work. So what do those do? Eventually we're going to get less and less and less actual jobs available for people to do. And Mana kind of explores the idea... Oh, there's the switch. I was wondering where the heck that was. It's like there is no switch in this room. Mana explores kind of a concept of a sort of a investor, an innovator, someone who's pioneering, basically, who sets up a company, sells 1 million shares in the company at $1,000 a time, I think is kind of how he does it. Is it a million? No, it was a billion shares at $1,000 a time, and that raises $1 trillion in funds. With $1 trillion in funds, he buys a large chunk of the Australian outback, and sets up kind of his own little colony. The Australian government buys into it and works with him on things, and eventually turns Australia into this self-sustaining colony. The processes of automation and things mean that most manufacturing processes don't involve any humans whatsoever. In fact, damn near everything within this society doesn't really need any outside involvement outside of just kind of automation. Mostly what's left to humans is the creative things, the designing, the innovation, science, pioneering in medicine, in technology, people who do things that they love because they love them. The sort of people who, in a capitalistic-driven society where everybody needs to work for money and you need the money to survive, you can't afford to do things that don't make money. If your passion for something in life doesn't make you a lot of money, then society basically says that's not practical, that should not be allowed to survive. The idea behind this society is that everything has merit to a certain extent. As long as even one person is interested in what you do, I mean, even in many instances, even if they're not. Why does that make whatever you're doing completely meritless? Well, really, it shouldn't. Oh, there was a pot over there. I could have thrown the pot, couldn't I? I would have done the job just as well. Hey-ho. It's about to come back on. Oh, that come out. So yeah, in the society depicted within Mana, yeah, there's effectively a system of income, basic income, in which all citizens get 1,000 credits to spend per week, and those credits can be spent on whatever you want. You can invest it in your passion projects, you can spend it on food, you spend it on clothing, whatever the heck you like, and because literally the only systems in place within this sort of near future, we're sort of assuming that energy's like renewable at this stage, the system involved a lot of recycling so that you could reuse materials, and the only resources being consumed were just the time of using automated systems and robots and things. So if everything's already automated, well, what does it matter? I mean, the company part of it came into the idea that you bought a part in the company so you have access to the resources that they have made available. So they give you access to them on a weekly basis, you have a certain amount of access to it, and you can use them for whatever you want. I'm skimming over a lot of stuff. There's a great deal of thought has been put into the intricacies of this, and there's like, given the assumption of a near future system of very heavy to almost complete automation of damn near everything menial within human existence, and the assumption of, you know, 100% recycling within a system, so no raw materials are ever particularly lost from a system, and renewable energy. Given those three assumptions, there's no reason why people really need to work. And those things are not things that really, in the grand scheme of things, seem all that far away. If governments and institutions, the people who run the show in the world, were willing to invest in heading down that direction, we could make a society where, you know, 95+% of people don't have to work crap jobs that they hate just to earn the money to get by. And we could establish a system of basic income whereby everybody is happy with their lot in life because they don't have to do that. And as I say, there's alternate ways to look at it insofar as you could look at it down a route of, hey, everybody can get some money, and if you're willing to do a crap job until systems of automation come in, you get paid more for doing it. I don't know. It seems pretty viable to me, and I kind of like that idea, just because I'm kind of in that, I'm kind of falling into that niche of, I want to do something creative here, but at the same time, this is absolutely not sustainable as a living. I know for a lot of people it is, if you can get to the, you know, big enough, yes. For me, here and now, no, absolutely not. But it's a nice idea, and one I kind of support. If you do the research, it's a very interesting topic, and I'll probably put a link to the story. It'll probably take you a couple hours to read through. I think it's probably a bit longer than a short story, maybe a novella or something. Yeah, it'll take you a couple hours to read through the whole thing, I imagine. It's all available online, so I'll put a link to that in the description below, and I would totally recommend reading it because I thought it was fascinating. An interesting way to look at the world, very much. But there you go. So that's me, I'm absolutely a commie here today. So thank you very much for watching, I've been Meroka. Don't forget about my little contest, don't forget to leave questions below, and my two favourite questions will win Game of the Year 2013 and Game of the Year 2014, both of them excellent titles in their own right, and you should totally be competing to win those. So please leave me further topics in the comments below, and then I will be in touch with you if you manage to ask me something excellent. But for now, thank you very much for watching, I've been Meroka, this has been Spiel, and I will see you next time.